Warning, warning, warning. We are headed for an economic crisis. Today, the jobs report came in and it is worse than July. Worse than July. So the jobs created. So if you had it bad last year looking for a job, just know that companies are not creating jobs. Now, why? Why are companies not creating jobs? Companies are laying off. Companies are making less money because people aren't spending, number one. Number two, because of tariffs that they have been paying extra, and now they're going to pass it on to you. So of course you're not going to be spending money. We are heading for an economic crisis. There are so many warnings.
Folks, things keep getting crazier. You heard her. She said, warning, warning, warning. The jobs numbers are looking pretty bad. We've got the August numbers out. 54,000 was the consensus. We're going to hear the other report later today on Friday. It's going to be probably in that range, I would guess, between like 50 and 70,000 maybe. And then they usually revise it. So the numbers that are put out typically get changed shortly afterwards. But we've got a lot of news to get into today, folks. The economy is falling apart like never before. The rich are still getting richer, but the working class are the ones getting pulled beneath the wheel here. We're going to hear from a few people talking about their personal stories. We're going to go over some tips and some strategies to try to keep from falling between the cracks, so to speak, in this economy. They're falling beneath the wheel, if you will. And going to hear from a few different people giving their take on the state of the economy right now, the cost of living, inflation, the crisis that's unfolding, all of it. And later in this video, we're going to bring up some charts, and it's going to show you how things are really getting worse than they were. We're going to look back just a few years, and you're going to see on the chart how much worse we are today with jobs and some other figures we're going to look at here. But first, let's hear from a few people giving their take on the state of things right now. All right, and first I'm going to play a perspective on consumption. And most of you should know that a lot of the price and cost of living right now, the high prices that we're seeing, is because of overconsumption. Just people willing to spend money they don't have, go into debt, buy now, pay later, right? All these things that people do to get it right now. And let's just play a clip here because this brings up a good point. Take a listen.
Why everything is so expensive now? I'll tell you. It's because you people don't stop buying stuff. You're always buying things. Think about when you were a kid and you lost a ball that you played with outside with your friends. That was like your one ball. When you lost that, it was like the end of the world, and you would spend an entire day trying to get the ball. Didn't they make a movie about this? About a bunch of kids losing a baseball? Now when kids lose things, they just ask their parents for another one. It just instantly gets ordered on Amazon. Technology is great. It's fantastic. We love it. We don't want to go back to a life without it. There's also the other side of the coin, where this readily available surplus of items that we can buy at any time has led to things getting extremely expensive despite them being very cheap to make. Are there a million other factors? Of course there are. But go look at your orders for Amazon for the year of 2024. Add them all up real quick in a calculator. See what that looks like. If you do a little bit of an audit on that budget of yours, especially those of you who aren't doing so well financially and are having trouble saving money, you'll probably find some stuff that you probably shouldn't have bought and that you didn't really need. As always, this is a supply versus demand problem, and a lot of you watching this do a whole lot of demanding and not a lot of supply.
Right, you heard him, and it's something we've talked about here many times. Overconsumption, supply versus demand, and even 15, 20, 25 years ago, it wasn't like it is now. It used to be like he gave the example of you lose a ball when you're a kid, you go look for it. Now it's like Amazon, overnight shipping, you have a new ball the next day, or whatever it is. Pick your item, right? Millions of different items. You get it on demand. You get it on credit. Credit is available. The banks are still happy to give out money because they're making records amounts of interest. With the high interest rates right now, 20-something% on credit cards. The banks are loving giving out these loans right now. But he makes a good point. Overconsumption. As soon as people just say no and stop spending, whatever it is, stop buying the items, stop going to these restaurants, stop going to the amusement parks, then prices will come down. You stop traveling, prices will come down for hotels and vacations and everything. You just have to say no, but nobody's doing that because at the end of the day, nobody wants to work and have nothing to show for it at the end of the day. The people that can't afford homes right now and that can't afford to invest, they're spending it in other places. They're going to amusement parks. They're going to sporting events. They're going to nightclubs. They're going to restaurants. That's why you still see places packed wherever you go, because people aren't saving or investing. They're spending, and most of the time they're spending money they don't have. So that naturally creates high prices. When people are willing to pay whatever without any limitations, and they're not going to ever say no to buying something, prices are going to stay high and will continue to go higher. And that's what we're seeing. Rising prices, right? Cost of living getting worse. Right, but listen to this. And this is just a small example of how you can just say no to these ridiculous prices. She's actually going to talk about food, and it's candy type of items. Take a listen.
Snacks and junk food is so expensive right now. It's literally forcing me to become healthier. Like, y'all, I am a chocolate fiend. No exaggeration. I have stopped eating chocolate as much because...
A chocolate fiend. I have to stop right there, folks. I had a chocolate bar a few weeks ago, and right after I ate it, I wanted more. Then the next day I kept thinking about, man, I need another chocolate bar. It's weird. It's like something addictive is in the chocolate. I don't know, but let's finish up here.
Is why would I pay you $3 for a freaking Hershey's bar that used to be $1? And it's like, I got the $3. I'm just stingy. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm stingy with my money when it comes to certain stuff. And if I feel like you trying to play me and overcharge me for stuff that literally is not even...
Yeah, more people need to be stingy with their money. You think, oh, it's just $3, but for something that should cost $1, they're charging $3. How much does it cost to make these candy bars?
That much worth of product, I'm not gonna pay that. Like, are we crazy? And so, yeah, I done got to a point where, like, I literally barely eat certain snacks anymore because it's just like, why would I keep spending my money on that? Like, y'all, I've gotten to the point where me and my family didn't start making our own little pastries. And once you get from Starbucks, the cheese danishes, make them out. Because screw y'all and screw spending money on shit that ain't even worth it.
Sorry about the profanity, folks. I don't screen these videos. Sometimes I'll go back and scrub them if it's really bad. But people are finally starting to fight back in little ways, like you heard about her no longer buying the chocolate. But it's going to have to be on a much bigger scale for prices to really adjust. Like you saw when the banking crisis happened in 2008, prices came down because people couldn't borrow money for a while. I mean, it was a whole year or more where it was really, really difficult to get a loan. So what happened, of course, prices went down because people just couldn't borrow whatever amount to make the purchase. All right, prices came down. We're not seeing that now. We're still seeing banks loaning out money. People still able to go further into debt. The debt keeps climbing. I'm going to talk about that here a little bit later in this report, folks. But that's the key to it all. But we have to say no to paying these high prices because companies are just going to keep raising prices. If you're willing to pay it, they're going to keep charging it and they're going to raise their price. Simple.
America prices are out of control. Tell me if I'm tripping or not. Recently, I went back to New York City, and man, every time I just walked out of the door, $300, poof, disappeared right out of my pocket. 2 plates of food at the deli, mind you, not even at a restaurant, $50.
Hey, New York City, there's your problem right there. But apparently you make more money in New York City too, so.
Imagine making $4,000 to $6,000 in New York City, bro. You be straight depressed. No way you're living comfortably with that type of money in New York. Facts. And it's not just New York. It's all over America. Y'all in the comments, y'all tell me, am I tripping or not? But with $4,000 to $6,000 in Asia, bro, you can't even spend $4,000 to $6,000 in a month in Asia. Facts. With $4,000 to $6,000 a month in Asia, you can have a driver, you can have a maid, you can have a dog walker. Shit, you can have a shoe cleaner come and clean your shoes every day of the month. So I gotta ask, is America too expensive or am I just tripping?
Oh, come on. Of course, it is too expensive. But if people can continue to borrow money, then there's no crisis. It's when people can't run up more debt and borrow more money on credit cards and get loans. That's when the crisis really kicks in, right? But we are starting to see people sick and tired of working multiple jobs And let's bring up a chart here before we move on. The number of multiple job holders. Take a look. All right, looking at the chart here, folks. Multiple job holders, primary and secondary jobs, both part-time. And we're going to scroll down so you can take a look and get a snapshot of how much worse it's actually getting. All right, let me make myself smaller so you can see. And let me make it so you can see the dates on the bottom. All right, so we can see this is recent, updated as of July. The August numbers are going to be out soon, but you can see the trend ever since 2020. Right, it goes up and down because the reporting data isn't always consistent with when the chart gets put out. But you can see the trend is obviously going higher, right? And now, if you look at this peak that happened back in April, it's worse than it was pre-2020, right? So things are headed in the wrong direction. In other words, people are working multiple jobs more now than ever. And I expect it to bounce back up because the data is going to be out here really soon. We won't see it until next month's chart because the chart gets put out like 20-something days after the data gets put out. So that's why it kind of bounces up and down kind of erratically. But you see the point here. More people are working multiple jobs, side hustle, gig economy jobs, 2-3 jobs, multiple streams of income just to keep up and to maybe go out and do something fun. That's why you still see people at the bars, the restaurants, the amusement parks, because people don't have extra money to invest, but they do have enough to take a weekend trip, to go to the bar, to go to the restaurant. You see what I'm saying here? Because a lot of people are wondering, okay, if the economy is so bad, why are the bars still packed? Why are the stadiums packed? Why are the stores packed? Why are Amazon trucks? I take a 2-mile trip and I see 15 Amazon trucks because everybody's buying stuff. People are doing these things in place of investing, in place of building long-term wealth, in place of buying a home, because so many people are priced out of the housing market. They're just spending their money in other places, right? So I think that's the key. I mean, let me know if you disagree with this, but I think that's one of the big things that people don't understand. And most of these people are buying things on credit too.
I'm selling my house and I'm getting ready to move back with my parents yet again. I am single. I do have a 9-to-5 job where it does not pay me nearly enough to cover the bills. And I've had this house for about 3 years now, and I am just exhausted. I am drowning, barely surviving, not being able to make repairs because the house is now falling apart, and I have no money in my savings to fix it.
Wow, bought a house 3 years ago, and back then they were cheaper than they are now. And she says she's drowning. She's moving back in with her parents. She's not a young person. She's not old, but she's looking like she shouldn't be living with their parents. But we're seeing that more and more now. People that are 25, 30, 35, still living at home. And if they moved out, they're moving back in with their parents. Let's finish up with what she has to say.
I have been saving for the past 3 years. All I've been doing is working and going straight home. I don't go out. I don't spend money on like coffee or anything. I try to save as much money as possible so I could get some money to make repairs for this house to make it nice and comfortable and livable. But I am at my wit's end now, and I'm just tired. I honestly want to leave my job, my 9-to-5 job that's not paying me well enough to even cover the bills. I'm exhausted.
That's another thing. People are tired of their jobs. They're working jobs they don't like just to keep up, just to pay for housing expenses. And you heard her, she can't even make the repairs on her house. So her home is turning dilapidated because she can't upkeep with the maintenance, and she's still working a job she doesn't like. So in her opinion, it's just too much. You might as well just move back in with your mom and dad. If you're miserable, working a job you don't like, the house is falling apart, you can't afford to keep it up, time to throw in the towel. Basically what she's saying. I hope she made a little money on equity because home prices are a little bit higher than they were 3 years ago.
I want to leave, but then I'm stuck with this house, and I just don't want any of it anymore. So I'm selling it. I don't know what my plans are going to be after I sell my house and maybe leave this 9-to-5 job that I'm at. But we're just going to figure it out. So I'm going to sell my house and go back to living with my parents.
Go back, live with your parents, and quit your job? I mean, are the parents going to be happy with you?
Fortunate. And living with my parents is not going to be easy because it is very mentally draining. Financially, yeah, I'll be able to save some money. but it is mentally draining because living with some Spanish parents that treat you like you're 15 yet again, even though you are a grown-ass adult, is just as bad.
Hey, a lot of people don't want to move back in with their parents, but they have to, and some people never even move out. But then there's the whole thing where you can get roommates. That helps out, but then roommates can be a nightmare. It depends, because somebody makes a mess, the other person doesn't want to go. I've been through the whole roommate thing many years ago, and it can be a lot of drama. If you get the right roommate, it can be great. One time I had a roommate that we got so into playing video games, we both started staying up till like 2 or 3 in the morning playing video games, and that was bad. It was a good roommate, great guy, didn't leave messes around the house, cleaned up after himself, but staying up till 2, 3 in the morning playing Madden football, man, that was addicting. It was like chocolate. It was addicting. Like, you played one game and you're like, all right, we're gonna shut it down, we're gonna go to bed. Nope, one more, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, we're still playing. Anyways, I digress. Let's hear from a few other people. Then we've got some insane economic news to get to on the other side here. All right, people, we're going to hear from somebody now. He's so broke he can't even afford a shirt, right? I'm joking. But take a listen. I believe he's almost 40. He puts out a lot of stuff on his financial situation. I believe he's about 40 and he doesn't have any savings. Take a listen.
I'm 39 years old and I have zero savings for retirement. And I don't know when I'm going to be able to start saving because my bills cost more than my paycheck. We're working 60 plus years, and we retire broke.
He's just down on the whole system. And pretty much he's right. You work 60 years, maybe not that much if you're lucky, and then you're still struggling when you retire for many people. Now, not always, right? But I see where it's coming from. Let's continue.
I'm seeing videos of 80-year-olds that are too old to work, but too poor to retire. Name one person you know that's gotten wealthy throughout all their years of working. Just really think about it. Did your grandparents get wealthy from working? Are your parents wealthy from working? Are you wealthy yet from working? And my grandparents had to choose between prescriptions and food. I remember that before.
Choosing between prescriptions and food. That's a lot of people do it now too.
They passed away. I remember them having to make those choices. I know people who worked their whole life and they retired poor. They didn't get to retire because they were poor. They were too poor to retire. I don't know anybody, or I haven't personally met anybody who's created wealth from working their whole life. Let me name some people you know.
No, I don't know anybody that's created wealth just working the 9 to 5, working for somebody else. I know some people that own their own business that did really well. Good friend of mine, he's in his mid 40s. He's done working because he owns his own business and ran his business for years. And he still works part-time by choice, just because I think he's bored. But he made a lot of money buying coins, buying and selling coins and different metals and stuff like that. But folks, working for somebody else, remember, the person deciding how much to pay you, they're going to pay you as little as possible to try to keep you employed. If they're going to see mass people quitting, they're going to have to raise the wages. But again, most people are desperate for a job. Most people are desperate to pay the next month's bill. And most people just aren't quitting. You see some people quitting, but for the most part, if everybody was quitting, they'd have to raise their wages to keep people from quitting. But we're not seeing that. But let's hear from somebody that's got a different perspective on the whole thing, the whole 8-hour workday. Take a listen to this.
Okay, I asked ChatGPT, why are people still working 40 hours a week when we have more wealth and technology and automation than ever before? And the answer, it read like a strategy manual for how to keep a population broke and anxious and obedient. So here's what it told me, okay? It said that the 8-hour workday has nothing to do with productivity, because studies show that most people are only productive for 3 to 4 hours a day. The system keeps them working 8 because exhausted people don't resist. They don't question anything. They don't build. They recover just enough to repeat the cycle. When people are overworked.
Wow, folks. Ever since I was a young person, I always wondered who thought or who came up with 8 hours. Why does it have to be 8 hours? Why not 5? Why not 6? Even school. I remember being in school for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Who said school has to be 6, 7, 8 hours? I can't pay attention for that long. I'm not learning anything for part of the day. Part of the day I may be paying attention, but then I'm so tired and bored, I'm not paying attention. So a lot of the schooling didn't get absorbed, if you know what I mean. I was maybe asleep at my desk a few times even. Who thought of this? 8 hours a day? And she got an answer from, what did she say, an AI answer? And it basically said this was designed to keep you stressed out, to keep you broke, anxious, and tired. Because when you're working 8 hours and you have to sleep maybe 8 hours if you're lucky, commuting back and forth to work if you're not working at home, most of the day is gone by the time you get off work. So they're keeping you stressed, anxious, and tired is the way she's putting it on the answer that she got. And let me know if you disagree, but then listen to what she says about how it makes people spend more money. This is interesting.
And overtired and burnt out, they spend more. They stop thinking long term, they stop building wealth, and then they
Tired, burned out, and stressed, they spend more money, and you're going to go to the convenient places, because if you're tired and you don't have much time, you're not going to make that home-cooked meal that might have been a little bit cheaper and healthier for you. You're going to go to the fast food. You're going to go through the drive-through. Let me just play that part back here.
and burnt out, they spend more. They stop thinking long term, they stop building wealth, and then they pay for convenience and relief and distraction.
They stop thinking long-term. They stop building wealth, and they just think about convenience.
The system, it sells you a life path that is built entirely on debt. College, house, wedding, car, kids. Life is front loaded with expenses. None of that is designed to actually generate income. By the time they're 25, they've already sold off decades of their future labor hours they haven't even lived yet. They think that's normal, but that's actually the trap. Here's where it gets more calculated. Okay, tired people spend more, but anxious people spend fast. So the system engineers anxiety. It floods you with unrealistic expectations and financial pressure and non-stop comparison. And that same system tells you you are behind and you are not enough. And then it offers to sell you the solution. A workout plan, a productivity app, a face serum.
Yeah, debt consolidation, financial counseling. I've seen couples go to financial counseling to figure out who's spending too much money. And people do spend too much money. Obviously, we just talked about it. But you also have to look at the entire setup here. And please let me know down below, is she correct? Is the entire system designed to keep you in debt, to keep you anxious, to keep you looking for convenience and maybe spending a lot more than you really need to because you're looking for speed and convenience because you're stressed out. You have to be to work. You're running late. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Let me know what you think about this, folks. But let's get into the financial news here before we wrap this up. And we'll just hit on a couple recent headlines, folks. The tariffs aren't working. The tariffs are not working. U.S. trade deficit widens in July on soaring imports. So where are all the benefits from this? We were supposed to see this. We were back in January. They said it's going to be an instant note. We're going to notice it instantly. Things are going to start getting better. The cost of living is going to come down. Jobs are going to come roaring back to the U.S. Nothing happens, folks. Things are getting worse. The trade deficit widened. More recent news. August job cuts, the highest since the pandemic, folks. Things are getting worse. How much more? How much longer can people hold on here? Basically, people living paycheck to paycheck, living on borrowed money, financing their lifestyles, right? Are we going to start seeing people pull back from the restaurants, the bars, the clubs, the stadiums? And our prices are going to have to finally start coming down because people just aren't going to be able to keep up with this. Or is it going to be something big that happens that's going to change everything? Like in our last report, we had that prediction from Bank of America that countries are selling off U.S. debt, and that could induce a crisis, right? So we're waiting for something big to happen. In the meantime, it's this grind of higher prices, having to work harder, getting less. Let me know what you think down in the comments. As always, big love and peace.